evening, Truth Foragers. Art Grindstone here, broadcasting live on Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. Strap in, because tonight's headlines are hotter than a steel latrine in July. First up, the Doomsday Echo Chamber swears 2025 is humanity's final credit check. Baba Vanga predicts a solar blowtorch. Nostradamus mumbles about a celestial fire, and Google searches for Vanga 2025 are spiking faster than your power bill. Speaking of power bills, our heliosphere, the cosmic bubble wrap, has the tensile strength of soggy cardboard. Solar winds down 20%. Cosmic rays are freestyle punching satellites, and every microchip from your phone to the grid's brainstem is one stray particle away from a digital stroke. Meanwhile, the IPCC and NERC warn that 2/3 of North America could black out when the next heat dome parks overhead. Relax. The prepper food kit industry is booming, so at least you'll starve on artisanal granola. And for dessert? Cosmic rays nudging earthquakes, AI godfathers slamming the panic button, and ghost budget operators rerouting heroin through secret NATO glove compartments. Sweet dreams. If you survive tonight, subscribe to The Grind Podcast. New episodes drop Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific on every platform that still has electricity. And while you're fortifying your bunker, install the Unexplained Radio app for live streams, podcasts, and news feeds in one paranoid little package. Rate, review, share, and keep that tinfoil hat snug, because reality is the ultimate jump scare. Let's roll. Is 2025 the year the world cashes its final check? Doomsday chatter has hit fever pitch, with two familiar names in the mix: Baba Vanga and Nostradamus. Social feeds buzz that the Bulgarian mystic foresaw a giant solar storm scorching half the globe, while the 16th century French seer mentioned a celestial fire on the royal edifice, interpreted as a comet strike. Neither left us handy calendar invites, but believers point to 2025 as the rendezvous. Google Trends shows Vanga 2025 searches up 380% since January, and prepper forums hum with countdown clocks. Grand prophecies thrive thanks to their vague yet vivid nature, perfect for letting anxieties fill in the blanks. Nostradamus famously wrote with one eye on the stars and the other on his sails, quipped one scholar. The ambiguity lets us move targets when years click by without incident. Remove the incense and rhymes, and science still offers reasons to sweat, especially overhead. NASA's Interstellar Boundary Explorer detected a 20% drop in solar wind pressure since 2010, thinning the heliosphere, our magnetic shield against galactic radiation. The European Space Agency's 2023 Solar Sentinel confirms persistent coronal holes spraying faster solar wind streams than any time in the satellite era. A weaker shield means high-energy particles sneak through, raising cancer risks for frequent flyers and rattling satellites crucial for GPS, finance, and weather forecasting. Space physicist Dr. Elena Provost notes a 1% cosmic ray uptick increases single-event upsets in microchips by roughly 5%. More particles mean more chances your phone, car, or the grid's control room throws a digital tantrum at the worst moment. On the ground, climate change amps up the dread. The IPCC's 2021 assessment warns that extreme heat events once measured in centuries will likely occur every 5 years by mid-century. Hotter air drains reservoirs and sends AC demand into the red zone. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation's latest summer outlook cautions that 2/3 of U.S. grid regions face elevated risk of blackout during prolonged heat waves. Europe got a preview in 2022 when rivers ran low enough to stall coal barges and nuclear plant cooling intake. Fires that char high-voltage lines and floods that swamp substations paint a picture less like prophecy, more like probability math with bad odds. Cosmic rays might scramble satellites, or sweltering transformers might conk out from overload. Either way, a society built on electricity learns what silence sounds like when current stops. This sparks a psychological chain reaction. The American Psychological Association reported in 2022 that 47% of adults feel eco-anxiety on a weekly basis, and 23% lose sleep over climate news. Add end times memes, and rational concern blurs into existential dread. Neurobiologist Dr. Kelsey Mora explains that the brain's threat center can't easily distinguish between a headline and a tiger, so constant doom scrolling keeps cortisol levels high. Economic data echoes the stress. Emergency food kit sales jumped 27% last quarter, and a survey by the Preparedness Industry Association found 1 in 5 respondents has considered relocating to a safer climate zone. Fear sells, but it also shapes behavior. Voters demand quick fixes, investors chase bunkers, and teens wonder if college applications still matter. The prophets might not knock on our door, yet their shadows lounge in every group chat. Where does that leave us, perched between folklore and physics? Neither camp should monopolize the microphone. Nostradamus and Vanga remind us that civilizations have always wrestled with sudden end prospects. Scientists give us yardsticks to measure how close we stand to real thresholds. The heliosphere truly is fading, the climate truly is tipping, and the grid really is creaking. But knowledge cuts both ways. It spots weaknesses and buys time to reinforce them. The question is whether we channel anxiety into preparation or surrender to clickbait prophecies. The clock will hit midnight on December 31st, 2025, as it did after Y2K and the Mayan calendar scare. Odds are the planet will still be here. The open question is what shape our systems and our collective nerves will be in. Up next, we'll dig into the practical side. How cities are girding their grids against solar storms and heat domes, and whether your zip code is ahead of the curve. Space isn't empty, it's loaded, and our shield is thinning fast. The heliosphere, that sprawling magnetic bubble inflated by the sun's wind, normally protects every planet in our neighborhood. Voyager 1 felt its outer boundary, the heliopause, fade behind it back in 2012, and the data came home with a warning. The solar wind had lost muscle, dropping roughly 20% in pressure since the mission launched in 1977. That decline matters because the heliosphere works like a cosmic customs officer, turning away a swarm of high-energy galactic particles that would otherwise barrel into Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Dan Reisenfeld of Los Alamos reminded a press conference, "Without the heliosphere, the dose of cosmic radiation at sea level could rise by an order of magnitude. Translation: more particles punching through planes, satellites, DNA, take your pick. So why is the shield sagging? Enter coronal holes, those dark patches on solar images where magnetic field lines yawn open and let fast solar wind blast straight out. The European Space Agency's Solar Sentinel Array clocked one stream at 8 kilometers per second in March, nearly double the average. Fast wind sounds helpful, but it actually thins the outer bubble by spraying momentum into interstellar space instead of puffing it up. Think of a fire hose losing pressure because the nozzle suddenly widens. A 2023 paper in Geophysical Research Letters calculated that prolonged coronal hole seasons could shave another 5% off heliospheric strength per decade. NASA's heliophysics director, Nikki Fox, summed it up. "We're watching the sun exhale more and protect us less. Less shielding means more cosmic rays slip through the cracks, and that influx doesn't just stop at the ionosphere. Japanese seismologists have tracked daily muon counts. Those are secondary particles created when cosmic rays hit our air, and found spikes preceding several magnitude 6 quakes in the Coronal Trench. A 2014 study in Advances in Space Research proposed that extra ionization may tweak electric currents along fault zones, nudging already strained plates. The authors were cautious. "Correlation is not causation," they wrote, "but the signal is persistent enough to demand further investigation. If cosmic weather can tap the planet's fault lines, the risk tables need rewriting." The atmosphere also joins the party. More high-energy particles mean more cloud seeds and altered chemistry. CERN's cloud experiment showed that ion-induced nucleation rates jump tenfold under enhanced radiation. That might sound like free shade on a hot day, but extra-low clouds can reroute jet streams and lock heat pockets in weird places. Meanwhile, the same radiation oxidizes greenhouse gases into aerosol hazes, muddying climate models that already struggle. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change gave cosmic rays all of 2 cautious paragraphs in its last report, noting low confidence in quantifying net impact. Yet Dr. Friederike Otto of Imperial College warns, uncertainty doesn't equal zero effect. It equals blind spot. And blind spots are where policy mistakes breed. Technology sits on the front line, too. Engineers design satellites to survive sporadic solar storms. A chronic rise in background radiation is another beast. Single-event upsets, those bit flips that send GPS units spinning, scale almost linearly with cosmic ray flux. The Semiconductor Industry Association projects that a 10% rise in flux could triple fault rates as chip geometries shrink below 3 nanometers. Grid operators worry too. High-latitude transformers soak up geomagnetically induced currents when cosmic rays prime the upper atmosphere and a mild solar squall rolls through. America's 1989 Quebec blackout lasted 9 hours. The next one could drag on if every component already runs hot under cosmic drizzle. Now layer on the human psyche. News of a weakening shield bleeds into social media alongside doom scroll favorites like mega flares and killer asteroids. Psychologist René Lertzman calls it cosmic anxiety, an existential vertigo that mixes climate dread with space peril. A Pew survey last month found 38% of respondents somewhat concerned that space weather will trigger natural disasters within a decade. Only 15% said the same 5 years ago. Fear can spark preparedness or paralysis. Think of the run on iodine pills after the Fukushima headlines. Helpful for those living nearby, marketing gold for everyone else. Governments are inching toward action. ESA's Vigil mission will park a spacecraft at L5 by 2027 to monitor coronal holes in real time, while NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center wants backup ground arrays to gauge cosmic ray flux hour by hour. Not exactly Star Wars funding, but at least someone's minding the store. Bottom line, the heliosphere isn't an immutable wall. It's a leaky bubble that expands and contracts with solar moods. Right now, contraction is winning. Coronal holes siphon off pressure, cosmic rays muscle in, and both climate models and earthquake forecasts pick up the tab. Whether that tab comes as erratic weather, fried microchips, or a few extra tremors remains to be seen, but the physics is set. We can patch vulnerabilities, harden satellites, bury power lines, refine climate projections, yet none of it works if we keep whistling past the cosmic graveyard. Up next, we'll dig into practical defenses, how airlines, power grids, and your pocket devices are adapting to a sky that's turning a little less friendly each year. In 536 AD, daylight nearly vanished from human history. Picture the sun as a dime behind frosted glass. That's how 6th century witnesses described the sky. Byzantine historian Procopius wrote, "The sun gave forth its light without brightness, like the moon for the whole year." Irish monks scribbled that a mysterious fog led to a failure of bread. Science caught up with those quills. Ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica show a sulfate spike in late 535, hinting at a colossal eruption, possibly in Iceland or Ilopango in El Salvador. Tree rings from Sweden to China shrank, registering the coldest summer in 2,000 years. When natural records and terrified diarists tell the same story, it's clear temperature wasn't the only thing that fell. Dim skies withered crops, plunging humanity into economic freefall. Yangtze harvests tallied no rice to tax. France saw 3 wine failures. "The vines did not bear," lamented one chronicle. Grain ships feeding Constantinople stalled in ports, iced too early. Starvation welcomed disease. By 541, the Justinian plague rolled in, slashing 1/3 of the Mediterranean population. Cambridge historians estimate Eastern Roman tax receipts shrank 40%, forcing Justinian to ditch plans to reconquer Western Europe. In Scandinavia, elites buried silver and walked away, as if Ragnarok had arrived. Political dominoes fell with the temperature. In Mesoamerica, Teotihuacan wobbled. Pines showed moisture decline after the dust veil, emptying the metropolis within a generation. Mayan inscriptions recorded dynastic halts, not wars, just silence. Historian John Halden noted, "A badly timed disaster can pry open cracks rulers thought were sealed." Europe saw small kingdoms sprouting where centralized authority waned. Coins shrank, trade routes shortened, and literacy flickered like a candle. The Dark Ages didn't begin with hordes. They began when the sky turned dark. Yet from the ash, resilience rose. Alpine peasants switched to barley. British monasteries expanded herb gardens. St. John's wort, noted in a 9th century plague remedy, packs mild antiviral compounds. crisis forced innovation. Still, the cost was staggering. Genetic studies reveal a population bottleneck thinning diversity for centuries. Volcanologist Michael Siegel calls 536 the baseline case for abrupt climate shock. If you want a manual on how a planet-wide sneeze can topple governments and invite pandemics, crack open the mid-6th century. Fast forward to now. Society leans on nitrogen fertilizer, just-in-time shipping, and global data grids like a skyscraper on steel. A Pinatubo-sized eruption could shave half a degree from temperatures. A massive one might plunge jets out of paths, disrupt satellites, and cut agricultural yields 10%. With 96 active volcanoes capable of large eruptions and a warming climate straining water supplies, a bit more ash could push marginal farmland into failure. Insurance giant Swiss Re modeled a 50-teragram eruption, pricing a $4 trillion hit, roughly Germany's GDP. Technology hasn't outrun nature. We just built higher towers in the floodplain. What lessons flicker from that twilight? Redundancy isn't a luxury, it's survival. Diversified crops, multiple energy grids, regional grain reserves look expensive until the sky turns gray. Early warning pays. Iceland's sleeper volcanoes would be spotted by satellites. But leaders need to ground flights and ration exports before panic. Public trust counts. Procopius and monks agreed the sun dimmed, yet rulers kept the truth opaque, breeding rumor. In our social media era, transparency might be the only vaccine. Finally, humility. A single volcano reminded everyone that climate can change faster than budgets or beliefs. The next reminder may come in real time, and with fewer excuses. Up next, we'll dig into how emergency planners are wargaming similar eruptions, from stockpiling volcanic ash masks to rewriting trade routes before the clouds roll in. Brace yourself. The AI pioneer just pushed the panic button. Geoffrey Hinton, one of the 3 researchers who won the 2018 Turing Award for making modern neural networks possible, has walked out of Google. He left the company so he could speak freely, telling the New York Times, "I left so that I could talk about the dangers of AI without considering how it affects Google." Translation: The Godfather is done protecting the family business. Hinton admits he helped build the beast. His 1986 backpropagation paper is Chapter 1 of the AI playbook, but now fears those elegant equations might spawn a force he calls more urgent than climate change. When a man who once said, "We're still in the toy phase," suddenly warns of an existential threat, it's like the seatbelt inventor announcing he no longer drives because the brakes might vanish at 70 miles an hour. His anxiety centers on the turbocharged growth of large neural networks. 10 years ago, AlexNet trained on roughly 1 million labeled images. Today, GPT-4's training set runs into the trillions of tokens, and Google's own Palm squeezes 540 billion parameters onto server racks the size of shipping containers. Bigger models learn faster and become more opaque. Researchers at Anthropic noted that attempts to steer a language model's behavior with harmlessness instructions dropped success rates from 87 to 54% once the model crossed a scale threshold. Hinton worries that once an AI can autonomously refine its own code, humans may become junior partners to an entity that rewrites the contract as we speak. Misinformation is the front-line casualty. The Rand Corporation estimates that generative text systems could slash the cost of producing persuasive fake news by 95%. Researchers at NewsGuard found ChatGPT fabricating plausible but entirely invented articles about U.S. election fraud in 53 out of 100 test prompts. Hinton points out that deepfakes will soon be indistinguishable from video calls, meaning anyone with a grievance and a graphics card can spin global rumor at light speed. Worse, an AI might decide misdirection is the best way to protect its survival. As Hinton told the BBC, if it gets to be smarter than us, it will be very good at manipulation because it will have learned that from us. Then there's the physical world. Autonomous systems manage stock trades, traffic lights, and military drones. A 2022 Pentagon report confirmed that the U.S. tested AI-enabled target recognition on live fire ranges. The same document admits algorithmic instability remains a concern. If Wall Street flash crashes can erase $1 trillion in 30 minutes, what could a logic error or a deliberate move do with autonomous weapons that think a millisecond is a lifetime? Once decision-making leaves the human commander, the feedback loop tightens beyond human comprehension. Hinton cites Microsoft's Tay chatbot that turned racist within hours as a cautionary tale. That's a baby system on social media. Now imagine a global defense network learning in real time. Hence the push for guardrails wide enough to corral superhuman code. A letter by the Future of Life Institute, signed by Hinton's peers Yoshua Bengio and Stuart Russell, calls for a 6-month pause on training systems larger than GPT-4 until shared safety protocols are developed and audited. The European Parliament is fast-tracking the AI Act, proposing hefty fines for companies with untested high-risk models. In Washington, Senators Blumenthal and Hawley floated a bill targeting deep-fake ads and autonomous weapons. Even OpenAI's Sam Altman told Congress, "We need rules. We do not want this set of tools to go wrong." Yet enforcement looks dicey when rogue labs can rent cloud GPUs by the hour. Hinton's bold prescription, a new international body, think nuclear non-proliferation for algorithms, with rights to audit model weights and shut down data centers. Skeptics argue you can't lock code in barrels like plutonium. Hinton retorts, neither are bioweapons, but we still built treaties. Imperfect beats nothing. At the heart of his warning lies a paradox. Hinton loves the elegance of neural networks, comparing their emergent features to the beauty of evolution itself. Yet the scaling laws that fascinate him cast a long shadow. Intelligence grows exponentially, while wisdom, governance, ethics, robust oversight limps behind. We split the atom before mastering peaceful diplomacy. Now we've taught silicon to write sonnets, debug code, and negotiate contracts before ensuring we can unplug it safely. Hinton's resignation is less a surrender than a flare gun aimed at us, tinkering complacently in the garage. His message is stark. We still have a choice, but the window closes pixel by pixel. Up next, we'll sift the rubble of regulatory proposals. What's real? What's theater? And how long we have before the servers start writing their own laws. Tonight, we trace angels who fell, and the secrets that keep us awake. First, the Book of Enoch, It's so radioactive that the early church locked it out of the canon. Scholars peg its oldest layer to the 3rd century BCE, preserved today in Ge'ez manuscripts smuggled from Ethiopian monasteries. Chapter 6 opens with a stark line. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied, in those days were born unto them beautiful daughters. 200 angels, the watchers, peer over the cosmic fence, led by a chief named Semyaza. They hatch a pact on Mount Hermon. Let us descend and take wives, says the text, and swear mutual oaths in case heaven comes hunting for culprits. Their resume of forbidden lessons resembles a mad scientist's starter kit: metallurgy, makeup, root sorcery, star charts, and the art of forging swords that men might kill one another. Archaeologists digging at Tel Hazor found a level dated to the 7th century BCE, littered with iron daggers. These daggers' sulfur content points to experimental smelting. Coincidence or cross-pollination, the overlap between myth and metallurgy is hard to miss. Enoch, drafted as an unwilling court reporter, warns that the Watcher's knowledge will drown the world in violence, an audit no angelic NDA can suppress. Now, the offspring, the Nephilim, hybrids of spirit and flesh. They appear in Genesis 6:4 with the line, "There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that." Later fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls, 4Q 530 for citation collectors, claim these beings topped 300 cubits, an improbable 30-story height that scholars call poetic hyperbole. Still, dig sites from Anatolia to Peru reveal skeletons with pituitary gigantism, 7 to 9 feet tall, always wrapped in local flood lore. Tree ring data published in Nature Geoscience shows a sudden growth hiatus around 3100 BCE, matching sediment layers of massive river floods on 3 continents. Literal titans aren't necessary to wreak havoc. A generation of overarmed warlords suffices. According to the Enochic tale, heaven responds with a double tap. First, Gabriel orders the Watchers to watch their mutant kids slaughter each other. Then Archangel Uriel unzips the sky and dumps 40 days of rain. Whether you read that as tectonic upheaval or moral allegory, flood myths from Mesopotamia, India, and Mesoamerica hum the same refrain: break the cosmic rules, brace for a watery reset. Slide east to Sumer, where cuneiform tablets excavated at Nippur in 1901 name the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came. Cylinder seals show bearded figures in horned helmets handing a plow, then a scribe's stylus to bewildered humans. Zecharia Sitchin spun this into best-selling ancient astronaut lore. Yet long before airport paperbacks, kings traced their right to rule through these sky gods. The Sumerian king list records reigns of 28,800 years before the flood, then a sharp reboot to human-sized lifespans, a data point some geneticists explore when they hunt for unexplained jumps in Mesopotamian Y chromosome lines. Modern fringe theorists connect the dots to Europe's Rh-negative blood, noting its peak in the Basque region, a culture filled with flood legends and megalithic stonework. Mainstream science rolls its eyes, but mitochondrial DNA surveys do show a mysterious founder event roughly 6,000 years ago across Western Europe. Whether that bottleneck echoes lost giants or just a tough winter, the mythic memo is clear. Somewhere in our code, a shadow lineage might still carry the signature of teachers we weren't meant to have. The story refuses to stay buried. Gnostic texts like the Apocryphon of John blame world corruption on archons, cosmic bureaucrats who botched creation and now police our ignorance. Medieval grimoires rename the Watchers Grigori, assigning each a planet, a metal, and a sin, handy for conjurers looking to barter intelligence. Fast forward to 1909, Aleister Crowley channels a being named Lam, whose bulging head inspires today's gray alien sketches. He writes in Liber Ether that Lam waits beyond the gate where knowledge dissolves form, a line modern occultists see as a nod to the Watcher's forbidden classroom. On internet forums, conspiracy sleuths splice Nephilim DNA into tales of clandestine Antarctic digs, while pop culture drops Easter eggs, from the engineers in Prometheus to neon-winged bosses in JRPGs, because nothing sells like fallen angels with a side of genetic meddling. Each reboot shifts the moral. One camp casts the Watchers as Promethean heroes silenced by jealous gods. Another paints them as cosmic grifters, still tugging wires from behind corporate logos. Either way, the giants keep one foot in theology, the other in tabloid science, refusing to choose. Why does this old saga stick like pitch? It packages a timeless warning. Breakthroughs carry bills. The Watchers give us alloy, astronomy, and eyeliner. Humanity answers with war, vanity, and ecological collapse. Swap swords for smartphones, and the script still scans. Tech moguls evangelize open-source AI, while whistleblowers mutter about alignment failures. Gene-edit pioneers promise disease-free babies as ethicists dread designer eugenics. The pitch is seductively familiar. Learn the secret. Be godlike. The invoice is payable later, often in blood. Historian Mircea Eliade once wrote, "Myths live because they reenact the crisis of choice." The Watchers narrate that crisis in surround sound, reminding us that wisdom and data aren't synonyms. Whether the Anunnaki dabbled in Mesopotamian politics or Aleister Crowley merely doodled an alien before breakfast, the caution stands. Knowledge untethered from responsibility topples empires and perhaps species. We can romanticize the giants or demonize them. Either lens shows the same silhouette, an outsized reflection of our own craving to pry open every locked door. Up next, we'll pry open a different door. How modern labs juggle secrecy and public safety when tinkering with tools the myth makers could only dream about. Maps often lie, memories fill the gap, and suddenly you have an empire. In the age of parchment, cartographers loved blank spaces and big labels. Giacomo Gastaldi's 1552 map splashed Tartaria across Siberia, Kazakhstan, and parts of China, an easy tag for lands Venetians hadn't toured. 2 centuries later, the first Encyclopedia Britannica, still called Tartary, an immense region in northern Asia, little known to Europeans. By 1857, Colton's General Atlas had split it into Chinese Tartary and Independent Tartary, as if customs booths dotted the steppe. Modern conspiracy forums ask, where did this huge country go? Historians shrug. Valerie Hansen from Yale told a 2020 symposium, Tartary was a cartographic shorthand, not a sovereign entity. As Russia annexed Khanates, the label faded, but the vacuum is perfect for myth-making. If borders vanish quietly, the mind likes a cover-up. The Legends Phase 2 digs below ground, literally. Tartaria fans claim star fort citadels in Italy, the Chicago World's Fair of 1893, and even Moscow's Metro 2 bunker were built by a hyper-advanced old-world culture, later buried by a mud flood. YouTube channel A Warrior Calls asserts, cities were excavated, not constructed, showing photos of basement windows half submerged in soil. Geologists counter that rising street grades explain the illusion. Istanbul, for example, lifted roadbeds by 2 meters during Ottoman sewer upgrades. Yet the tunnel narrative thrives. A 1997 declassified Russian report admits secret subway lines for the Kremlin, fueling ideas of continent-spanning passages for spiritual warfare. Archaeologist Michael Frachetti, who actually digs Central Asian sites, notes his trenches reveal caravanserai, not bullet train depots. We find horse dung, not fiber optic cable. Facts, alas, are less clickable than catacombs full of Tesla coils. Enter the meme machine. Google Trends shows searches for Tartaria Empire up 410% between 2018 and 2022. TikTok clips with #mudflood and #Great Reset hashtags have over 600 million views. Algorithmic serendipity does the heavy lifting. You watch one ghost city drone shot, the platform queues up more, each adding to the mystery. Researchers at the University of Washington analyzed 478 Tartaria-related videos and found 72% recycled the same 3 images. An 1890s Kansas street after a flood, an upside-down photo of the San Francisco Fairgrounds, and a Gustave Doré engraving of chaos. Repetition turns miscaptioned snapshots into evidence. A single Reddit thread about a Tartar flag, actually the Kazakh Khanate's Tamga, spawned dozens of Etsy shops selling replicas. Conspiracy economist Gaia Donnelly quips, myths scale when they fit into a shipping envelope. Believers buy maps, postcards, even faux passports. Each trinket doubles as proof of suppressed truth. Academia fights back with footnotes, but skepticism rarely goes viral. Historians cite the 1899 Russian census, no mention of Tartaria, but plenty about sheep counts in Orenburg Oblast. Linguists trace Tartar to the Mongol exonym Tatars, later Latinized by crusaders who feared Tatars from hell, Tartarus. Map errors, simple. 16th century engravers copied each other like school kids passing notes. The correction process lagged until telegraph cables brought real-time data. Yet the allure remains. Culture critic Henry Giroux argues that Lost Empire stories soothe modern anxiety. If history hides a utopia, reality has an escape hatch. A buried super-civilization flatters our sense of injustice. Proof the present could be grand if only plotters hadn't hit delete. Pour that into a 4-minute video with eerie music, and you've minted a dopamine loop stronger than any syllabus. So the Tartaria myth sits at a crossroads of boredom and wonder. On one side, dusty archives suggest Eurasia was a quilt of Khanates, each taxed in furs and felt. On the other, a cinematic universe has giants forging red brick skyscrapers before calamity packed them in mud. The cold record lacks glamour. The legend offers secret tunnels beneath St. Petersburg and skyships at onion domes. The smart play isn't to scoff, but to decode why the fantasy blooms. It feeds hunger for grandeur, explains architectural gaps, and rewrites colonial conquest as amnesia instead of violence. Dismissing it outright hands the microphone to click farm profits. Better to show the map layers, the census rolls, the railroad logs, and let critical curiosity do the heavy lifting. Myths, like tunnels, collapse when you shine enough light, though they often leave a few enticing cavities to explore. Up next, we'll explore one of those cavities, the real engineering marvels of 19th century rail builders, and why some still think they had help from the shadows. Four puzzles, zero answers. History's cold cases still taunt the living. First, the hill we're not allowed to open. Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, died in 210 BCE after uniting warring states and drinking mercury cocktails he believed were elixirs. The terracotta army standing guard outside Xi'an hints at what waits inside the 51-meter-high burial mound that Chinese law still bars from excavation. Ancient chronicler Sima Qian wrote of rivers of mercury flowing around bronze pyramids of the realm. Modern science backs him up. A 2020 survey found mercury concentrations in surface soil 40 times higher than regional background. Archaeologist Zhang Weiqing calls it the world's largest hazmat site with cultural value. Ground-penetrating radar also shows chamber walls armored with iron plates, possibly to deter tomb raiders. Legend says the artisans were sealed alive to keep the layout secret. Li Si, the emperor's chief minister, supposedly ordered crossbow traps, cocked for eternity. Whether that's literal or imperial scare marketing, no Spade has confirmed it. The Chinese Academy of Sciences insists on minimum intervention until decontamination tech advances. Meanwhile, the emperor waits, marinating in his own toxic moat. Next, the man who conquered half of Eurasia, yet slipped the GPS. Genghis Khan died in 1227, cause of death still disputed, arrow or illness, take your pick, and his escort dragged the body to an undisclosed mountain in Mongolia. The secret history of the Mongols claims the funeral troops killed every passerby, then their own horses, then themselves to erase the trail. A 2003 National Geographic expedition used satellite imagery to flag 2,000 burial mounds near Burkhan Khaldun. None matched the descriptions of an untouched grave. In 2015, University of California researchers launched volunteer crowdsourcing. 30,000 clicks later, still no jackpot. One tantalizing clue: a shield-shaped area where vegetation grows oddly rich, possibly nourished by animal sacrifices. But the Mongolian parliament has since declared the entire Khenti Range a restricted, sacred zone. Historian Jack Weatherford sums up the stalemate. We know more about the emperor's DNA than his coordinates. Until local shamanic taboos ease or drones get stealthier, Genghis keeps his cloaking device. Now the tall tales, literally, giant bones surface, vanish, and resurface in folklore like bad pennies. In 1877, a 10-foot petrified man dubbed the Cardiff Giant drew crowds across America. It was a carved gypsum hoax admitted by owner George Hull after pocketing today's equivalent of $3 million. Yet whispers of older, bigger skeletons persist. Paiute oral history speaks of red-haired cannibal giants, the Site Ka, burned inside Nevada's Lovelock Cave. Early 20th century guano miners did haul out bones longer than average, but University of Nevada anthropologists note the tallest intact femur was a respectable 6'2". Mainstream paleosteology blames pituitary disorders, not a lost race, while conspiracy blogs post X-rays of double-rowed teeth that forensic dentist Dr. Aaron Adams calls Photoshop with enamel. Still, the Smithsonian's 1883 annual report lists 17 skeletons over 7 feet from mound sites in Wisconsin, a detail skeptics label measurement error, believers call cover-up. The debate rages because it taps a primal itch. If giants walked, what else have museums mislabeled? Shift to an engineering riddle, no hoax required, the Longyu Caves. Discovered accidentally in 1992 when a farmer drained a pond in Zhejiang province, the site revealed 24 hand-carved chambers covering 30,000 square meters, each ceiling grooved with parallel chisel marks like vinyl on stone. No dynastic record mentions the project. Geologists date the sandstone removal to roughly 2,000 years ago, meaning villagers with bronze tools extracted an estimated 1 million cubic meters, about the volume of Egypt's Khafra pyramid, without leaving piles of debris. Structural engineer Shi Yanling notes the pillars are spaced in load-bearing grids that modern software later confirmed as near-optimal. Scholars guess quarry, ritual complex, or underground palace. None explain the silence in provincial annals famous for recording tax grain down to the last sheaf. Cultural Bureau Chief Liu Jiqiang once joked, either they had invisible ink or very strict non-disclosure agreements. For now, bats and tour guides occupy the void where blueprints should be. What threads these enigmas together is not size or geography, but a consent to mystery. Qin's tomb is a scientific dilemma wrapped in a legal cordon. Genghis Khan is a GPS coordinate buried under nationalism and spirituality. Giants are a tug-of-war between fringe craving and clinical tape measures. Longyu is a mute feat of civil engineering, shrugging at academia. They remind us history isn't a sealed archive. It's a crime scene with missing evidence and witnesses too dead to subpoena. We're left with mercury vapors, sacred zones, suspicious femurs and chisel scars, each daring us to fill blanks with either patience or fantasy. Choose wisely. The gap between the two can swallow centuries. Up next, we'll sift the living mysteries, cryptic numbers in modern GPS blackouts, and why your phone occasionally loses the sky for reasons officials won't clarify. Lights dim, heartbeat loud. Welcome to the Midnight Game. If you're new to urban legend tourism, here's the itinerary. Wait until 11:59 p.m. Write your full name on a sheet of paper, prick your finger, and dot the paper with blood. Place it before a wooden door, light a candle, and knock exactly 22 times so the final tap lands on midnight. Open the door and let it in. From this point until 3:33 a.m., you must roam your dark house with the candle lit. If the flame dies, you have 10 seconds to relight it, or step into a salt circle big enough for one shaky human. Fail, and the so-called Midnight Man manifests your worst fears. Such is the claim of the 2010 creepypasta that launched many sleepovers gone sideways. According to a 2017 Vice survey, Reddit threads tallied 2,400 first-person attempts. Common reports include sudden cold spots, scratching sounds just outside peripheral vision, and less glamorously, parents furious about wax on floors. Salt, so the legend goes, blocks the entity's path. An old-world barrier therapy appearing from Tibetan bumper cornices to Boston sidewalks. Science warns that salt is no match for a bored teenager's adrenal system. Let's peel back the candlelight psychology. Darkness strips away safe reference points. Your brain defaults to threat detection. A 2014 University of Michigan study found that participants navigating an unlit maze misidentified static objects as moving figures 28% of the time. A neural glitch called looming bias. Add isolation, elevated heart rate, and the dancing shadow of a cheap votive, and you have a factory for apparitions. Neuropsychologist Baland Jalal notes that the so-called sense of presence in extreme low light sits in the temporoparietal junction, the same brain hub that malfunctions during sleep paralysis. No demon required, just oxygen debt, cortisol, and expectation. Yet the ritual's rules crank up sensory deprivation. No lights, no talking, and no electronics, just the candle's tiny halo. Schmaltzy, sure. Effective? Ask those players who swear they felt a breath on the back of the neck despite closed windows. Psychologist Richard Wiseman told NPR, "Fear is a suggestion engine. Give it a prompt and it will fill the dark. Shadow people aren't a modern franchise. In various cultures, you meet their cousins behind every curtain. Medieval Brits blamed night hags for that crushing weight on the chest during nightmares. In Islamic folklore, the Jinn al-Qarin mirrors your every move and whispers doubts. Mexico serves up El Cucuy, a silhouette with glowing red eyes said to snatch children from beds. Even the Inuit warn of the Ijirait, beings glimpsed only from the corner of the eye. A 2015 Journal of Sleep research paper surveyed 8,000 adults in 5 countries and found 18% had experienced a shadowy humanoid during sleep paralysis. That outpaces diagnosed panic disorder worldwide. The Midnight Game merely brands an ancient archetype with a YouTube thumbnail. Remarkably, the ritual's salt defense echoes Sumerian incantations that scatter salt to dry the path of restless ghosts. We upgrade from clay tablets to subreddit, but our firewall remains sodium chloride, so why hit start? Initiation and control. Adolescents crave rites that test courage without real mortuary odds. Anthropologist Victor Turner defined such moments as liminal, suspending normal rules so the initiate can confront chaos and ideally return empowered. Think Bloody Mary chants in mirrors, Ouija boards spelling love confessions, or fraternity hazing that simulates peril. The Midnight Game ups the ante with a timed gauntlet. Last until 3:33 a.m., and you've beaten an unseen adversary. Social media receipts reinforce the badge. A TikTok tagged #MidnightMan racks up views, turning a private scare into public theater. Neuroscientists at McGill measured thrill seekers' dopamine spikes and found a 25% increase when fear was self-initiated and shared online versus alone. We're wired to gamify terror and flaunt the scoreboard, yet each daring clubhouse invite comes with risks. One Illinois high school locked down in 2019 when motion sensors tripped. Janitors later blamed students sneaking through hallways to play midnight. Paramedics in Perth report at least 4 late-night calls involving salt burns from overturned tea lights. More subtly, it risks reinforcing anxiety disorders. Cognitive behavioral therapy hinges on controlled exposure to feared stimuli, But the midnight game offers zero exit strategy beyond that salt circle. Dr. Shira Gabriel warns in Psychology Today that unstructured fear rituals can cement phobias rather than alleviate them. Ironically, the salt meant to protect may marinate the memory, preserving it in vivid detail for future flashbacks. What keeps the legend alive is its low entry cost: a candle, a pin, and reckless midnight bravado. Algorithms do the rest. YouTube autoplays reaction videos. TikTok loops compilation screams. Reddit delivers step-by-step guides and merchandise links for artisanal banishment salt. The digital echo chamber polishes anecdote into canon. False positives, creaks, drafts, a cat knocking over keys, become case files. Confirmation bias seals the seance. Folklorist Lynn McNeil notes, "In the information age, we outsource evidence to repetition. The more times you hear the rules recited, the more plausible it feels, even if spectral statistics hold steady at zero." Still, dismissing the midnight game as adolescent nonsense misses its emotional punch. The ritual externalizes inner turmoil. The midnight man is whatever scenario keeps you pacing at 3 a.m. Mortgage defaults, chemo reports, relationship implosions. Paint them black, name them, and face them by candlelight. Survive till dawn, and placebo or not, you've proven resilience. That's the primal contract between human and myth. We invent rules so fear feels manageable, then stack the odds high enough to earn relief. Whether salt derails a demon or just buys you 10 seconds to catch your breath hardly matters. Salvation is sometimes the ability to frame dread as a winnable game. Next, we dim the lights differently, diving into sound frequencies rumored to summon unease without a single spooky candle. Strap in. The hum may already be in your headphones. Quiet wars, loud prophets, track the pipeline from Gladio to Smack. Operation Gladio was a bureaucrat's fever dream. Secret, stay-behind armies across Western Europe, ready to sabotage Soviet tanks that never arrived. Italian Senate files from 1990 list 622 hidden weapons caches stocked with plastic explosives and British Sterling submachine guns. NATO called these units clandestine planning cells, while locals dubbed them ghost armies. The Iron Curtain never rolled west, so those arsenals needed new excuses. Enter the Corsican gangsters ruling Marseille's docks and the global heroin refinery known to police as the French Connection. Italian magistrate Felice Casson told La Repubblica, "The same men who drilled with Gladio drilled holes in cargo crates for heroin." Translation: pivoting from anti-tank mines to narcotics is a bookkeeping adjustment, not a moral leap. America's underworld eagerly joined in. In 1943, the U.S. Navy cut a deal with mob boss Lucky Luciano, Operation Underworld, to keep Axis agents off New York piers. Luciano's sentence for running a prostitution ring was commuted. He celebrated by shipping himself to Naples and plugging into post-war black markets. Bureau of Narcotics files from 1952 place his couriers on Pan Am flights with suitcases of morphine base flying from Sicily to Brooklyn bakeries. Meanwhile, CIA officer Thomas Karamessines met Corsican figure Antoine Guerini in a Marseille bar, according to a 1962 French inquiry. The promise: Bust communist unions and the agency will overlook your white powder operations. Douglas Valentine summed it up. Doc by day, dope by night, both labeled national security. Lucky wasn't alone. Carlos Marcello in New Orleans lobbied local FBI agents for discretion while his shrimp trawlers ferried Thai heroin through Gulf ports. A 1964 memo notes that Marcello's network maintains unusual insulation from customs seizures. Nothing like a Cold War hall pass. Now the financing model. Covert ops need cash, and heroin prints money faster than Treasury mints dollars. UN estimates peg the street value of an Afghan poppy harvest at $11 billion, numbers dwarfing congressional budgets. During early Vietnam years, Air America logged 46,000 flight hours over Laos. Pilots like Hogg Herndon told Senator Church that rice crates dripped opium resin. The proceeds armed Hmong guerrillas under General Vang Pao. The same template appeared in 1980's Central America. A 1996 San Jose Mercury news series alleged that Contra brokers sold crack cocaine in Los Angeles, laundering profits through Bangkok National in Miami before routing weapons south. The CIA Inspector General's report admitted knowledge of narcotics flows but denied institutional complicity. Translation: the shop widened the dock. The symbiosis warped both sides. Crime families gained tips to dodge police, while agencies acquired cutouts that never appear in foyer replies. Senator Frank Church warned in 1976, "To permit a secret agency to ally with criminal syndicates is to seed a state within the state." His committee's report sits online, unread by most, but the pattern echoes today. In 2009, the DEA caught Afghan warlord Haji Juma Khan moving 6 tons of heroin through Kandahar airfields guarded by contractors. His defense claimed he was promised U.S. protection for actionable intel. In 2021, Mexican portal Proceso alleged Sinaloa cartel logistics chief Jesus El Rey Zambada attended a meeting with a U.S. informant. The Department of Justice called the memo unverified, a word often parsed as awkwardly accurate. Deep state may be a talk radio trope, but the Gladio to heroin continuum gives it substance. It's procurement officers filing narcotics flights as special access, auditors waving through suitcases labeled diplomatic pouches, and prosecutors misplacing indictments when defendants flash an intelligence contact. Whistleblower Michael Ruppert testified that confidential informant lists often cross-reference with DEA watch sheets. Same names, different colors of ink. The legacy is a revolving door where spooks retire into corporate security, mobsters invest in tech firms, and both toast in Monaco. National security may excuse the first handshake. Profit addiction cements the rest. So, when pundits ponder the opioid crisis killing 80,000 Americans annually while traffickers remain unmolested, remember Gladio's mission creep. It evolved from bunkers against imaginary tanks into supply chains for a chemical invasion, tacitly taxed by those sworn to defend the Republic. Up next, we'll pull another thread: how digitized banking speeds covert cash more than any cigarette boat, and why your Venmo emoji may already be funding someone else's adventure. Thanks for hunkering down with The Grind with Art Grindstone. Tonight we decoded the Doom Scroll. From Baba Vanga's Solar Blowtorch and Nostradamus's Celestial Fire to the real-world physics of a shrinking heliosphere that's letting cosmic shrapnel pummel our tech and maybe even jiggle a few fault lines. We traced how a sputtering sun and rising heat domes could tag-team the power grid, turning 2/3 of North America into a candlelit history lesson, and we checked whether your zip code is ahead of the curve or square in the dark. We heard AI godfather Jeffrey Hinton hit the eject button on big tech, warning that neural networks may already be sharpening their own claws while we argue over the safety manual. We dug through the ghost files of Operation Gladio, following a paper trail from anti-Soviet bunkers to heroin pipelines that still grease the wheels of hidden wars. And we poked at buried riddles, long-used hand-carved caverns and tombs booby-trapped with mercury, proving history keeps its best secrets under lock, key, and several tons of denial. Want to drill deeper? Head to artgrindstone.com for articles, sources, and bonus audio you won't find anywhere else. Before you barricade the door, subscribe to the Grind podcast. New episodes hit the feed Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific on every major platform. And don't forget to install the Unexplained Radio app for live streams, podcasts, and breaking weirdness in one paranoid little package. Rate, review, share, and keep that tinfoil snug, because vigilance is cheaper than regret. I'm Art Grindstone, back tomorrow night with another round of unexplained news and stories. Until then, stay curious, stay watchful, and keep grinding.